Hello everyone. Those who are watching us today, we have Ms Noopur Jhunjhunwala. Noopur is the trustee and founder of ChangeInkk. Welcome, Noopur, to the conversation. Truly in and out.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Those who know ChangeInkk has been working towards helping youth and people with dyslexia. We would be talking about the program and the way ChangeInkk works. And Nupur has been in the ecosystem for more than 20 years. She started changing her 2 year back. Before that, she was with UN Women and also served the government of India in various roles. So she brings sector and then the corporate and the experience that. So would we are glad to have you here, Nupur. Nupur, with this start, we also wanted to understand the story of ChangeInkk Foundation. So, why you thought having experience working in the sector, playing various roles, suddenly 2 year back you started ChangeInkk, and what is the story around that? And
I come from a family of dyslexics. My co-founder is my younger brother, who is a dyslexic, was diagnosed about 30 years ago, in a time when it was not very much known, but we came from a good school, so we had the privilege to identify him early. Also, my daughter, personal journey started as with my daughter, my youngest, has a learning disability. And that's when it hit me that it's not normal. You spend your entire life it being normalized around you because you have so many people like that. And then we're a Bombay based family, but moved to Delhi. And that's when it hit us. And all this while I was working in my roles in the government and other ways to sort of influence some of this inclusion. But it was ad hoc. And as a parent, we did a lot of advocacy. But this really became the opportunity to structurally create a movement that built out this ecosystem piece by piece. So we're really like identifying problems, trying to find innovative approaches to solve it. It's much like the gender movement was about 35 years ago.
right, I think ChangeInkk is one of the organization which started working around dyslexia and building the ecosystem so that more and more such organization come up and take ownership and then maybe work around the issue. Uh, I was also going through the numbers. I mean, out of five, one is one, or
Yes.
maybe if you have those data, would be helpful for us also to understand how
So,
uh, issues.
absolutely. So we generally think that people with learning disabilities is an invisible disability, so we don't realize the extent. Global data estimates that it's 1 in 5 individuals, which is about 20% of the population. If we translate that to India, that means it's about 200 million or 20 crore Indians, right? Of which 35 million or 3.5 million at a very, very low level estimate are students. This is 20% of the classroom that is not meeting learning outcomes. And we know them as the Tare Zami Pe, right? Like the kids who can't study, low learning outcomes. These are the children who generally are not considered smart, right? But the flip side, which most people don't know, is 40% of self made millionaires in the world are dyslexic, right? Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, Hewitt Pickard, you name it, Walt Disney, Ted Turner, who created CNN, all of them are. In fact, if you look at just the top 10 companies that were founded by dyslexics, in a difficult financial year like 2020, they contributed $1 trillion to the global economy. That's the impact of these minds, right? And they're also behind most of the scientists and innovators of the world. So the light bulb, road personal cars, airplanes, technology, animation, computers, mobile phones, internet, all of these are really because of this. So, what we are trying to do in a very simple way is to change this Duffer syndrome and this Duffer disease into really leveraging and unlocking the potential to become the next big innovator, entrepreneur, startup. So we're creating those pathways in it because India will not grow if we don't meet it. We can't meet our learning outcomes if you aren't addressing the needs of 20% of the invisible kids. That's at the core of what we do.
Right. I think the insights, the data that you are sharing are making some story and also helping personally me. I'm just getting to learn so many things around dyslexia, and I was reading about while before coming to this conversation. So what are the programs that you run? Because the problem is big. How do you look at system adaptability, where government is investing, and then what sort of programs that you run at Changing, which are actually making change on the ground and helping people?
So, Mala, I think we have a very systematic approach. One is based, our approach really talks about, we start with mindset shift work, where you sensitize and talk to people and convince them of your theory of change, right? People have to actually believe that a person with a learning disability is not a duffer but has the potential to become the next disruptor. So we spent the initial time in the organization building salience, sensitizing, all of that. So we have a program called, our largest campaign is the Speak for Dyslexia campaign, which is primarily advocacy, which has a 250 million organic reach. So I think that's one large chunk of the work we do, where we build do sensitization and build salience. Then comes the building of the capacities and the influence of the policies. So, a large part of our work is policy governance and system transformation. What that translates into, at the national level, we work with about 5 ministries, 10 departments. Why do we work with them? We don't work with only education or social justice. We work with Atal Innovation Mission, we work with Ministry of IT, we work with entrepreneurship, because you have to build out that ecosystem, right? So we're working with skills, so all of them. And within them, the various departments, school education, higher education, those kind. So, in fact, earlier this month, we launched the Build Higher Education program with the Department of Higher Ed and NEPA, where we are providing support to convert 40 leading universities in our country and make them inclusive for students with disabilities. So this includes IITs, triple ITs, NITs, IIMs, central universities, all of them. So we have programs like that. At the state level, we work and do programmatic and system intervention in states. So we provide technical support to states to actually convert policy into, first develop the inclusive policy and then convert that into programmatic implementation that can be scaled. So under this, we've scaled about 55,000 teachers and other educators across the country in about 18 months. So like in UP, we've trained 2,300 master trainers who are now training 60,000 teachers.
What is something that you look while hiring people?
So we are looking for people who are in two verticals. One is the public policy research strategy team. These are your people who like working in changing policy, working with government, working with the ecosystem to influence change from a perspective that is informed from evidence. So, research, it could be global or local. It also, we are looking for people who are able to write, communicate, present, have those strong skills at one end. The other is, we have a very strong program implementation team, inclusive districts, inclusive schools, inclusive universities. We're building them out hands on, working with partners to implement, right? So that's our flagship and strategic initiatives team. Here we need the guys who can roll up their sleeves and sort of like get into the field, get into the nitty gritty, all the gyan and stuff that the structures that are being built out from policy can actually be shown in action. So these are the guys who like to work in the field. So we're looking at both types of people. But most importantly, Mala, we're looking at people who love to learn, who love to think out of the box, who like to innovate. one of the most exciting things about working in our organization is we have experimental. So we learn, we unlearn, we learn, we relearn. So we are very, very inclusive and accommodative in that sense, which makes it even more fun.
You bit spoke about your culture also. I mean, there are people flat org, there are people can try out, they are they can innovate. So if you can speak bit about your culture also at changing.
So I believe very, very importantly that a person who comes into this organization, changing has to fulfill their life path. It could be that they're passionate about the topic. It could be that they're passionate about learning. So that's one of the first questions I will ask in an interview, right? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? And how do you see working with us fit in? And then what we do is, of course, we have a fundamental understanding of the kind of work we want to do, but we allow our team to explore avenues and figure out where they want to grow. So you may have come in saying, I want to work in school education and I will do this policy work or I will do research. So I had one person who came in as an intern. I want to do a PhD, I want to do research, all of this. Went to Nagaland, did actual implementation. It's come back and said, boss, research is very boring. I actually want to be an implementation person who also does thinking around policy, right? The full-time person probably will get a promotion soon. So we allow those pathways. The idea is that you must be willing to invest in yourself and your growth story. And we create that while, of course, you have to give back to the organization to be able to do it. So people come in and say, I'm going to be here for 3 years because I want to do a master's. Or somebody will come in and say, I'm here because in the next 5 years, I see myself in a leadership role and I want to learn. Sort of, I want to start my own org. And that's all cool.
I think this is something that most of the org should pick up. And this is something that youth like us also learning from leaders like you. That's where, I have another question. See, you have spoke about people staying, retaining with you. So, do you have a career pathways planned for the youth who join changing? So, if you can speak bit.
So we have this traditional associate, senior associate, which then becomes a team lead and principal team lead in the policy team, which in the program implementation is really the program manager, senior program manager. And then you go into the director, additional director, director roles. That's your pathway, which is more traditional. It's a growth based. We have a very strong appraisal process where we allow the employee to sort of work through their KPIs and sort of goals for the year. We align them with the organizational goal. Because we are a startup, often individuals are the ones who are driving a lot of the growth that aligns with their personal. We have quarterly check-ins. We have a formal half-yearly appraisal with, not an appraisal, but really a review process and an annual appraisal. So that's how we do it. Mala, I will be honest, this is stuff that we are growing and learning because it's a startup. A lot of this comes from feedback from within our team.
Right. So,
Sorry, go ahead.
Nupur, see, there are youth just getting out of college or someone who's in the career transition. And did you also get a sense around how the salary or pay band looks like for an associate or for those who are starting their career with changing? If you
So we
can
have
just put some range or some thoughts around that.
Yes, Mala, we have a very competitive range. We are in the upper end of the non-profit sector. Our starting salaries at the minimum are about 6 lakhs. It's where we start. Um, it depends on your experience, which pedagogy you come from, how much you've already done, all of that bit. But one of the things we have is we are trying to evolve our bands, and there is a commitment that you will be at least at the minimum of that band. So the pay parity. Also, we have pay parity around gender. We have pay parity around disabilities. So you may have accommodational needs, but you won't be penalized for lower salary. So we are a very fair organized. I'm a feminist at the core. I've been doing this for many years. I've been fighting for equal labor force participation and equal pay. So we ensure that, in fact, for us, men are the diversity candidate. Um,
I think these
so
leaders also
we
learning
provide
from,
all of that.
I think leaders also learning from people like you around, and these should be core of any org around equal pay, equal work, irrespective of gender, caste, grade. Uh, Nupur, you have been into the ecosystem almost, I think, 1999 to now it's almost 24 year. And then you bring all sort of experience that might help youth who are getting into social sector, who want to start their career or look to transit into social sector. Do you have a message for them? Any message that you wanted to give to them?
Follow the learning. Don't get caught up initially in salary, in brands, in things. If you look, and I say this to my children and my younger teammates, follow your passion, follow follow opportunities that allow you to learn. Don't go into a place where you feel you will excel. Go into the place where you feel that, oh my God, I have so much to learn. How will I do this? Right? And get into a place which will allow you to build networks and meet people, especially if they're out of your comfort zone. If you are a person who likes to sit in the city that you are, get into a project that allows you to be in the field. It is the only way to learn. When I started my career, this is what I did. This is why I'm able to do what I do. I'm one of, I had the opportunity to build networks. Some of the people I am consulting today are people I started my career with 20 years ago.
Right. Great having you, Nupur. I think these insights will definitely help those who are looking to transition or looking for career with changing over the time. We wish you all the best and thank you so much for joining us.